afternoon. It's just an absolute honour for Giang and I to be here on behalf of Blue Dragon. Thank you for inviting us. And when we're here sharing our work, we're really sharing the work of an incredible team of people who stand behind us and who are on the front line right now. So I hope we do them justice and that we're able to share some helpful ideas for you in how we've done child protection and safeguarding over the years in Vietnam. So recently, headlines about child protection and safeguarding have just been shocking. Over 200,000 child marriages over a 5-year period of children as young as 12. An adopted father of 9 boys accused of raping them over many years. More than 200 children missing from government care facilities. The good news is that these aren't headlines from Vietnam. These are headlines from so-called developed countries where systems are of higher standard. So I just want to start with that to say that no child protection and safeguarding system is perfect. We are all working in imperfect systems, even the country where I come from. So I just want to set that as the bar, and that every country has gaps in their systems. We work with humans. Things aren't always black and white, and there's a lot of grey areas that we need to navigate along the way. So at Blue Dragon, what we've seen here in Vietnam over the past 20 years is a significant improvement and development in the child protection system and in the understanding of child protection and how that's applied in reality. We also see a very strong commitment from the government to protect children and prevent them from harm, as well as a societal understanding of what that is. So things are definitely in progress.
Yes, so I just want to give you the context of how Blue Dragon started 20 years ago. And I was the lucky one because I was with Blue Dragon 17 years. So I have been seeing the development of this organization from the beginning, and also had a chance to see how great work and great efforts the Vietnamese government have been trying very hard in making sure that the children are safe and protected. So let's go back with me about 20 years ago when Hanoi. So I will talk about Hanoi, because that's different context in Ho Chi Minh City. Hanoi at that time, there was a lot of street children. They came to Hanoi because of poverty. They took the responsibility to earn money to support their families, to support the siblings so that their siblings, the younger siblings, can go to school, will be fed with food. So when they end up to Hanoi, what they do? They do social work, they sell postcards to the tourists, and they was forced to follow the gang. At that time, street children were treated very badly. When we talk about the word of collect and sort, that means we will talk about something like rubbish, right? You collect things and you sort it into different categories where you can use it or you will throw it away. These words are the words used to solve the problems of streets. So they were connected and sought to bring them to different centers for rehabilitation. At that time, the street kids faced many different challenges, different difficulties. They followed the gang, they was beaten, they was exploited, they didn't have home to live. So what they sleep is in a big tent where about 20 or 30 small children live together and like on the floor like this. At that time, the kids did a lot of illegal stuff. So a lot of kids conflict the law because they were forced to do it, but also because they don't have any choices. So drug delivery, stealing car parts, and then they end up in prison. We call rehabilitation for the children who conflict with the law. And we start with where the kids are. At that time, Michael and a few different his name is Chung. So he's a Vietnamese person who really wants to work with Michael in supporting the children. Michael is our founder of Blue Dragon, and he was CEO for many years. And now Skye kicked him out. Yeah, Skye kicked him out. He's retired. Out of use.
That's not true at all. He's still very active in the organisation.
Yeah, he's very active.
Thank you for forwarding. Otherwise, I will forget the user power. Don't say to me, otherwise I will lose my job.
Okay, so he and the volunteer named Chung try to looking around Hanoi to see what are the services available for street children, what they can have. So he came into many different places, organizations and shelters, but there's no comprehensive support to the children. So maybe they can do the charity work, they can give the kids something, they can provide a shelter so that during the day the kids still go to work on the street. So the grassroots issue is not going to be solved. We start asking the kids, what do you want? What do you need? And the kids said, I need a home. I need to go to school. I want to be with my friends. I want to learn football. But these are the things that should be students have.
So from our early days in rescuing and caring for street kids at a time where the street kids were not even acknowledged that they existed in the system. So it was very challenging to deal with an issue that didn't exist. But nowadays we're more well known for our anti-human trafficking work, for our rescues of girls, women, boys, men, from places of slavery within Vietnam, but mostly from across international borders, from China, Myanmar, Laos and Cambodia. Our outreach team in Hanoi is still out in the street every night, and in the past 12 months, they've met more than 300 young people, mostly coming from the northern provinces in search of work, who've dropped out of school to help their families. But when they arrive in Hanoi bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking that everything will be great, it's not the reality. So we try to find them as soon as possible to prevent harm, because once harm happens, it's a very difficult recovery process. And with our rescues, we have rescued all ages, from unborn babies to 10-year-olds, to 12-year-olds, to 15-year-olds, to 16-year-olds, 17, 20, 27, 34, 58, 60. And last Friday, we rescued a woman who was 78, who since 1985 left her countryside in search of work. We discovered her because a neighbour reported her case in China. We don't know what happened to her here in Vietnam, but we know that she was in China for 15 years. And because she was barren, she wasn't able to have children, she was sold into slavery, where she washed dishes for 14 years, not allowed to go outside. So, we work with children and we work with very, very vulnerable adults. So it's quite tricky. So, it's emotional. But, because of that, we started working with children, but the need grew and grew and grew. So we can't say no to someone who calls for help. So we really have spent a lot of our efforts to strengthen our safeguarding policies and practices inside the organisation, because we're working with both those groups of children and adults at the same time. Sometimes they're interacting together, but also to ensure that each of them receive individualised care and support that they are making decisions about, or that their caretakers are really involved in. So, how has Blue Dragon navigated the gaps over the years with dealing with complex issues like we've just shared, and with such a range of people and backgrounds? Firstly, we find and embrace the strengths of the Vietnamese system, people, and culture. Yes, there are gaps, but we need to focus on the good. There are very good child protection policies and laws. There are still gaps in implementation, but they exist, so we can use them and advocate for them to be used in real life. The people, there are champions everywhere. There are champions in the police, there's champions in government agencies, there's champions in this room, there's champions in NGOs, there's champions in families. Find them and use them, because people want to protect children. And in the culture, Mimi mentioned earlier today about the strengths of the collective culture and the family structure. There's not only ever two caregivers for a child in a Vietnamese family. Most of the time you can find many other responsible adults who can help. And we also see with Vietnam's development such a willingness to improve and advance protection of children. So there's a lot of strengths there. And for all of us here, it's also about our strengths and how we bring them to the table alongside the other strengths of Vietnam. And we have a responsibility to do that. We have a responsibility to share our expertise and our resources. Contextualize, and contextualize. I can't say this enough. Bringing foreign ideas or practices and just putting them on another country, it does not work. And so for all of us in the room, we're struggling with how we manage these international standards, our governing countries, and how we navigate the Vietnamese law that we need to follow while we're here. So I can't say this enough. Don't just adapt. You need to contextualize to the people that you are serving, the children and their families, to the communities, and to the country. But it's not one country, because Vietnam has 63 provinces. I always get that number wrong. Please correct me. 63 provinces and 52 ethnic minority groups. And you also need to have robust and flexible and principle-based policies, so you can then adapt them to the issues that you're dealing with. So for Blue Dragon, we deal with human trafficking, street kids. We're very principle-based, and we're always asking ourselves, how can we contextualize? Are the voices of the people that we're supporting being heard and a part of this? And so this is the most simple metaphor. Our chief lawyer, Van, he actually leads all of our rescues, and he has rescued over 1,300 people. He's often got 7 calls for help going at one time. This man really is a child protection superhero. And he said to me last week, we were talking about this, he said, Skye, a Vietnamese child is starving and hungry. And you as a foreigner think, oh great, I'm going to give them a really nutritious protein bar, because it's the fastest way to help them get the nutrition they need. After 4 days of giving them that nutrition bar, they refuse it and they don't want to eat anymore, because they just want a bowl of rice. And I'm like, Manoy, that is profound, thank you. It's so simple, and we need to keep it simple and keep the people at the heart of it. And finally, we need to go beyond compliance. So all of us here need to meet compliance. We meet compliance at Blue Dragon, but that is the minimum. We need to go beyond that. We need to take those boxes that we tick and the things that we put in place and go beyond that and make it work for us and the people that we're serving. So just a very, very simple example. To meet compliance, your organisation would have a child protection focal point or a safeguarding lead. For us at Blue Dragon, that's not enough. So yes, that's great and that's really helpful, and the principles of that are very, very supportive for the way we work. But we actually worked on what we needed to make the greatest impact, and that's to have a whole child protection advisory committee, multidisciplinary, made up of Vietnamese people with different, more than 10 years experience in each of their fields. So legal, psychology, social work, all working together to support our whole team to build safeguarding into our culture, which I heard mentioned as a really key point earlier today. And making sure that everyone loves safeguarding. We want safeguarding heroes throughout the organisation. Safeguarding is awesome, and you can make it awesome, because when people really get it, they will fight for it, and it doesn't just sit on one person's shoulder. So some examples of how we put this into practice.
I am the great one to talk about practice, right? Because as a social worker in Vietnam, I really work from frontline and then supporting my team and government partners in improving the system to protect the children. So I already gave you the overview of 20 years ago when Hanoi and shift its situation. Now we're just moving to Ho Chi Minh City. You are here now, but come back 15 years ago. When Blue Dragon first rescued one boy who was trafficked from Hue, rural area, where the fishing area, to work in on the streets, and another boy on garment factory, where he had to work in the sweatshop. So for Hue, the center of Vietnam is Hue, that is particular province that I'm going to talk about. 15 years ago, there is 2 districts in Hue, close by the sea, and often in Hue, the family has a lot of children, 5 children, 7 children, 9 children, or 10 children at one family. And what they realize on is just the father work fishing every day on the sea. But it doesn't mean that he can fish 365 days a year, because it will be depends on the weather. Sometimes storm coming, and sometimes it's not a great place to do it. So what we find out is that the children from those places was sent to Ho Chi Minh City, but no one knows that wasn't easy. They forced to work in the garment factory, they forced to work on the streets. But the problem is, both the families and the community and the children didn't know what their life can happen in Ho Chi Minh City. One day, the neighbor came to their house and tell the mother that I will bring the child to Ho Chi Minh City. He only had to work a few hours a day. He will be go to school. He will be treated well. So think about you. If you are the mother of the child, the father of the child, when you don't have food to feed 9 children, you will say yes, right? Because the kids will have a better life. But when the kids end up into Ho Chi Minh City, they have to work 16 hours a day. No time to rest, they have to stay in very bad condition, very heat and hot, and faced with a lot of issues. When they are sick, they're not allowed to go to the hospital. They're not allowed to contact their families, and they only can go home once a year. So, but why they still can bring more children to Saigon, to Ho Chi Minh City? Because what they did is, they took the child to the school, asked him to wear the uniform, take the photo, send home. Take the boy to the park, take the photo, send home. Take the child to English center, take the photo and send home. The parents at home, they are very happy because their kids have a good life. They also can receive about $100 per year. So 15 years ago, it's very valuable. Yeah? So they happy with that. The government didn't aware that it's an issue. So how Blue Dragon bring that into the land? So we brought one of the government staff to Ho Chi Minh City to see the reality and do the rescue trip. At the beginning, they didn't support us in doing that, but now, where government take over the program, they set up the early warning system in their community where they protect the children. So the women union in Hue, they take the responsibility into the claim management of all the cases that we rescued 15 years ago up until now, but also the hybrid cases in the community. The family increasing their incomes with very good household livelihood support. Yeah, and the children now in school, they understand very well about safe migrants and safe child labor in Ho Chi Minh City and other provinces. So we are very happy to say that we're already ending child labor in province where we work.
Sorry, we have so many stories and it's almost out of time. So I'm just going to quickly just nail a few more points home. So, you know, in our experience with child labour, where the issue didn't exist, street kids, the issue didn't exist. Then with the sexual abuse of boys, that didn't exist because only girls were sexually abused. So basically every issue that we work with, we start where we are. And we look at the issue, we look at the resources around us, we look at the strengths, the context, and we think, you know, what can we do to help this individual child, and then what can we do to change the system? Because then all children will be protected from this. So I just want to share one other little example is that, because one of the gaps is around the capacity of other organisations or agencies or people to be able to support. So for us, we work with a lot of different partners, and one of the training partners we work with in Hanoi, we were establishing our agreement about how we would refer and, you know, agreeing on child protection policies and code of conduct. They didn't have one. But it wasn't because they didn't care about the safety of the kids or the young adults they were serving. It's because they never had the resources or the opportunity to learn about it. So instead of us saying, well, just follow out and we'll sign the agreement, we actually said, well, how can we help you? You know, we're not paid to do this, but how can we help you? Because we care about your service, it is so needed. So let's use our strengths to build up your strengths so that children can be protected forever through your training centre. So sharing our expertise, doing training for them, understanding the needs and the risks of the kids, training them, doing TOTs. And when an incident happened in one of the workplaces where one student was placed, with a contractor coming on site and harassing a young woman, we worked with them and the employer to improve their safeguarding practices so that young people going into those placements were safe. So there is a ripple effect to absolutely everything that we do. So I really encourage you to go beyond and share what you have with others, because it does make a difference. So, So I just want to come back to those final 3 points. Really find and embrace the strengths. They are everywhere. I know it can be overwhelming with the gaps, but there are strengths. Use them, they are gold. Contextualize, 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 and go beyond compliance. So I hope that these 3 simple steps that you can do in your teams or ask questions about, are we contextualizing? Can we do more? Is what we're doing with this individual child, could we affect change in the longer term in the system? Do it. Just take action. So thank you so much for your time. Both Giang and I, we're very happy to share anything about Blue Dragon. We're very happy to share our practice, our lessons learned. And if you want to know more about us, there's all of our social media. So thank you so much.
Being 2 incredible women doing extraordinary work with an incredible organization, changing the lives of children. So thank you both. And they said that this other helper was a superhero. I think we are looking at 2 child protection and safeguarding superheroes right above us. Please give them an announcement. Appreciation for all the incredible work you do. And not only do we want you to come back and speak to us again down next summer and share more of these insights, but we really want us to support you in those schools